In 5a, we're given the function x cubed times the seventh power of the quantity 3x minus 2, and we are asked to find all the places where the function has a horizontal tangent line. So what we need to do is figure out where the slope is 0. Well, if the slope is 0, that means f prime of x is 0. So let's differentiate, and then we'll set that equation, the expression we get to 0, and we will solve for x. F prime. So we're going to use the product rule here. We have a function of x times a function of x. And actually, we're going to need to use the product rule along with the chain rule. So I'm going to call this A, I'm going to call that B. I need A, B prime, plus B, A prime. That's going to be x cubed times the derivative here, which would be 7 times 3x minus 2 to the 6th, times the derivative of the inside function, which would be 3, plus b, which is 3x minus 2 to the 7, times the derivative of a, which is 3x squared. We're going to set that equal to 0. So I think the best way to solve this is by factoring. We've got two terms here. Remember that terms are separated by pluses and minuses. So what we need to do is look for all the common factors between this term and this term. Well, I see a 3. As far as powers of x go, we have 3 here, but only 2 here, so I'm going to take out 2 powers of x. Now we've got 6 powers of 3x minus 2 here, and 7 powers over here, so we can take out 3, or rather 6. Now what is that going to leave? Well, here we took out the 3 and x squared and all 6 powers of this. I believe that's going to leave behind an x here and a 7. Let's see. Yes, we took out 2 powers of x. That'll leave 1. We are not touching the 7. That stays. 3x minus 2 to the 6th power. We're taking out all of that, and we took out the 3. So I think that's right. Now what about this part? Well, we took out the 3x squared, and we took out 6 powers of 3x minus 2, so that's going to leave 1 behind. So I could write that as 3x minus 2 to the first power, but I think I'm not going to. I think I'm going to write it just like that. Now let's clean this up a little bit. This is going to be 7x plus 3x. That would be 10x minus 2 equals 0. So now we just set each of these factors equal to 0 and solve. Well, the 3 isn't really going to contribute anything, so let's just set x squared equal to 0. Well, that tells us that x equals 0. And remember that this really is just 3x minus 2 times 3x minus 2 times 3x minus 2 and so on. Setting any one of those factors of 3x minus 2 to 0 and solving will be the same as setting any of the others to 0 and solving. So let's just set one of them equal to 0. I think that gives us x equals 2/3. And then finally, let's set 10x minus 2 to 0 and solve. And that's going to give us 2 over 10, which is 1/5. In 5b, we're given the function g of x equals 4x minus 3 divided by 2x squared plus 1. And we are asked to find all the values of x where the function has a horizontal tangent line. So that means that the slope is equal to 0, which tells us that the derivative is equal to 0. So let's find the derivative using the quotient rule, and then we'll set that equal to 0 and solve. Alright, so we need the denominator times the derivative of the numerator minus the numerator times the derivative of the denominator. I think that's 4x. And then we'll have that all over the denominator squared. Let's multiply all this out. That's going to give us 8x squared plus 4 minus 16x squared plus 12x, I think. Alright, that appears to be correct. But I guess we'll find out. So now, we need to set this equal to 0. Well, in order for a fraction to be equal to 0, the numerator has to be equal to 0. One way to think of it is this way. You can rewrite 0 as 0 over 1. And since we have this this fraction equal to this fraction, if you cross multiply, you're still going to get a true equation. So this expression times 1 is going to be equal to this expression times 0. In other words, this is going to be equal to 0. Alright, well I'm going to clean this up a bit too. So that's going to be minus 8x squared plus 12x plus 4 equals 0. And I see that everything here can be divided by 4, so I'm going to factor out a negative 4. That way we won't have a negative coefficient in front of x squared, and it'll just make things a little bit prettier. So I think that'll give us a 2x squared minus 3x minus 1 equals 0. And let's divide each side by negative 4. And we get the equation 2x squared minus 3x minus 1 equals 0. I think I'm going to use the quadratic equation. So what we're going to get is 3 plus or minus the square root of 9 minus 4 times 2 times negative 1, and that's all going to be over 2 times 2. So we're going to get 3 plus or minus the square root of 17 over 4. And I don't see anything wrong with that. You can use your calculators if you would like a decimal approximation, but I think I'm going to leave it just as it is.